Hey everyone, Johnny here. I'm one of the coaches at Propane Business and one of the coaches at propanefitness.com. This may not go to plan for a variety of reasons. This is the first time I've ever tried a video with dealing with my handwriting. It's also a day where, for some reason, my next door neighbor, it's not, she can do what she wants, I suppose, but she's just literally this morning, someone's drilling in the kitchen. So I may not even get 5 minutes into this. But today's video is something that we're going to be trying doing pieces of content like this to talk about topics that we get asked a lot about online business. And I'm going to try and build these in a progression so that they kind of build on one another and they make sense. So if you're watching this and this is the first one of these that you've watched, you've started in the right place. If you've just come from another video, then hopefully this sort of helps to explain the subsequent topics that I talk about. So just to give you a bit of context, why should you listen to me? Like if you've just found this video on YouTube or wherever it may be, why should you listen to what I have to say about this stuff? Now, I'm by no means an expert in online business. I'm by no means like the one-stop shop, and neither is Propane Business or, my business partner, Yusuf, and I, we still very much feel like we're learning with this stuff. Why am I making a video about this? Why does Propane Business exist? Well, we have been running Propane Fitness, which is the fitness side of what we do, for around a decade, actually, of the time of me recording this video. And over that time, we've built that business. It's purely online. There's never been an offline aspect to it. We've built that business to the point where we've coached over 3,000 clients. It's surpassed that kind of mystical six-figure revenue mark, if that even means anything. And we've been able to build teams and build systems and structures around that business to do two things, I suppose, which is why I want to talk about this. So firstly, it allowed us to quit jobs in the corporate world. We both used to work as accountants, and I'm an investment banker and accountant way back after we left university. Realized pretty quickly that corporate life wasn't for us and wanted to move into something that we were passionate about. We both had very sort of active interests at the time in fitness, still do, obviously. And I was a competitive powerlifter, Yusuf was competing in gymnastics. And we wanted a way to sort of operate in that world while still feeling like we were, building and running a business, kind of using our business skills, like the stuff we've been taught, building a brand, building a business, building systems, hopefully bringing on employees at some point in the future, and sort of being an offline personal trainer didn't really scratch that itch for us. So an online business in the fitness industry pretty much ticked all the boxes, right? The challenge we faced, of course, was making it possible, which is, again, why we're talking about this stuff. It's not easy. So that's the first thing that Propane Fitness has allowed us to do. We reached the point where we were replacing our income. We moved into the business full time. And then since we did that, which was back in the end of 2015, start of 2016, we've basically been layering systems and automations and actually slowly removing ourselves from the day-to-day operations of the business, which has allowed us a lot of time freedom, right? So we haven't seen any impact in the performance of the business and the revenue, but we've slowly removed ourselves from the front of the business in terms of the day-to-day coaching clients, delivering services, managing lead flow and sales and things like that. And that allows us to do things like this, which really, this stuff, I'll explain more about why we're doing this in a second. It's allowed Yusuf to do a medical degree. It's allowed me to work with some offline businesses on their marketing. And really, we've built a business in a way that we think is worthy of being taught. So it's taken us 10 years to get to the point where we kind of feel like we roughly know what we're talking about. And the reason that Propane Business started, or the reason that we started teaching this stuff, because it's one of the most common questions we get, is if your fitness business is doing so well, why on earth are you doing something else, right? Why on earth are you teaching PTs? And I totally get that criticism because, firstly, I suppose it's logical the way you arrive at that criticism, but also that my newsfeed, and I'm sure your newsfeed, is full of people who are saying, I built my fitness business to 7 figures and then for whatever reason it didn't fit my lifestyle and now I want to teach you. And it's quite clear, like if you spend any amount of time listening to these people, it's quite clear that they probably didn't do that. because if they did, they would still be doing it, right? And we have bought from some of these people. I'm not going to mention names. We've bought from some of these people and realized despite what we were told on the phone, despite what we were told in the sales process and conversations, we on the other side of the paywall, we realized that actually, not only had they never built a fitness business, not only was their fitness business not still operating, but they probably never built one, because there was no evidence on Google, there was no website, no Facebook page, no evidence on Google, Facebook, YouTube, anything, right? And the way I think we looked at that was, well, firstly, let's say that you have built a business and you had to stop it. All you're saying is that you built a business in such a way that it wasn't actually sustainable, so you had to stop. So why do we want to listen to you? Like, I don't want to be in that position. So that's one side, is kind of, in a similar reason why we started Propane Fitness, we felt like we'd been lied to by the fitness industry, by all sort of the supplement companies, the people promoting keto diets, the people promoting like very specific, very rigid plans. And when we saw there was a much easier way of doing it, that's one of the reasons that prompted us to start a business around that, to teach people the benefit of our mistakes. And that was one of the drivers for starting Propane Business. So combined with the freedom and the flexibility and the fact that actually the business that we have now in the fitness industry is largely self-running, self-managed, we have the time to do this. We have a reason, which is that we think that there's a lot of people teaching a lot of bogus information in this industry. And then finally, people were just asking us for it, right? So if you're a personal trainer or you're an online coach yourself, you'll know that there is a fixed level of demand for your services, for your fitness services, from other coaches and other personal trainers, right? I have an online coach myself. I have online coaches in loads of areas of my life, actually. Firstly, because it would be pretty hypocritical to offer online coaching, but not operate in that world myself. But secondly, like, I obviously see the value, right? I understand the value of, accountability, objectivity, having someone do the programming for me, etc. So we were coaching a lot of personal trainers. We still do. In fitness, so we're managing their diet and their training. I'm not talking about business at the moment. And they started to ask us, so they were typically traditional offline PTs or gym owners. They started to ask us, how is it that you guys are coaching all these people online? Because they're in our client groups, they see what we're doing, without having a huge Instagram following, without posting content every day online. You don't seem to be following the traditional model of like content, lead magnet, email series, all that sort of stuff. Can you teach us? So we had a few initial clients that we helped, and we said to them, look, like, we've never taught this stuff before, but we are going to try and formalize the process with you. Over time, our program that teaches this stuff called Propane Business was born, which is a very formalized version of basically what Yusuf and I did to build Propane Fitness. And now we help personal trainers just deploy our systems. So we take what we've tested and what we know is working right now, right? The up-to-date current stuff that is working in the fitness industry, because the market's always evolving, right? And we just teach personal trainers that. Or in some cases, we actually do that for them. Okay, so we've seen our systems work in our own business, and now we've seen them work in other coaches' businesses as well that have started from zero up to the point where they're replacing their income. And what I want to talk about today is the first step of this. So if you are outside the industry looking to move into it, or maybe you're an offline personal trainer and you're thinking, I'd like to move into online coaching, the first position that most people are in is they just don't know where to begin, right? Because it's paralyzing, all the information that is out there. Who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? What is the first step? And I want to talk about setting business goals today. So this is not going to be sort of write a vision board and imagine what your life is like in a year's time or any of that crap, right? This is just, how do you actually practically get a handle on what has to happen to go from whatever position you're in now to the point where you have a business that is functioning, okay? So again, forgive the writing. Something that I realized when I was recording this video is to get this to even look slightly level, I actually have to write on a downward line. I still can't really get my head around doing that. So I realized I realize to you that looks like it's sloping upwards. When I look at the whiteboard, it looks to me like it's doing this. Just physics. So setting business goals, right? So the first word I've written there is freedom. Now, not in the traditional sense, right? You see on these ads on Facebook, people talking about like getting a freedom lifestyle and working on a beach in Thailand and all that stuff. That's not what I mean. What I do mean is getting your business, or we think the first goal that every trainer moving online should shoot for is not to become an Instagram influencer. It's not to have 1 million followers on Instagram. It's not to hit 6 figures in turnover, right? It's just to replace the income that you currently make. Okay, so what we call, or what is known widely now as the freedom number, it's originally popularized by the 4-Hour Workweek, if anyone's read that. I'd recommend you do if you haven't. But this idea of building what Tim Ferriss refers to as a muse. So, in fact, just for reference, so I don't forget it. If you want to learn more about this stuff, 4-Hour Workweek, right? You can learn more about what Tim talks about, which is dreamlining. So, setting goals in the future and working out what your ideal lifestyle costs. Okay, and actually making that very practical and actionable. But for now, we're going to be looking at what are you currently earning monthly? What are all your costs? And then how can we look to replace that? Okay, so there's 2 aspects to that. So one, you can go to, like, let's say you're earning, make it simple, £2,000 or $2,000 a month, and you want to seek to replace that. That then becomes your target revenue. That's one way of approaching it. The other, which I would recommend, which is probably a bit more sensible, is go through your bank statements for the past 6 months, take an average, and you're going to be looking at your expenses. Okay, so how much you have going out of your bank account. In other words, if it was gun to head time and you had to build an online business, these are the things, and you had to leave and do it full time, this is the income that you would absolutely have to make, right? The revenue you'd absolutely have to generate in order to make it viable. Okay, in other words, covering your compulsory costs. So figuring what that number is then immediately gets you clarity of, all right, that's how much I need to generate. Now, how am I going to make that possible? So we have figure number 1, which is your monthly outgoings, and we recommend a 20% buffer for that. This might end up getting quite messy, and hopefully you can see this pen. So 20% buffer, sort of. Once we have that, okay, so we have a number. We're then going to calculate, all right, well, how many clients do I need to cover that? Okay. Now, people get bogged down in the complexities of pricing and, how much should I be charging, or, should I go super high ticket, because people talk about that a lot at the moment, or should I make a membership site and charge a low? We recommend if you start at around the £100 per month mark, you're at the point where, firstly, that's, for anyone who's serious, that's affordable, right? For anyone who's serious about working with you, people spend that on all sorts, okay? If someone legitimately doesn't have £100 a month to spend on your services, you probably shouldn't be working with them anyway. So if someone's serious about reaching their goals, they will consider at least £100 a month. And if someone's worked with a coach before, they've spent at least that, right? So that's achievable. Okay, so take your... but it's also not so high ticket that you need to be doing high pressure sales tactics. You don't need to be, completely changing someone's world and cooking all their meals for them and all that sort of stuff for £100 a month, right? It's a reasonable service that allows you to offer a scalable offering that is affordable for the majority of niches that you would pick. All right, one of the downsides, and people don't talk about this with high ticket selling, one of the downsides with high ticket selling, so these coaches who are trying to offer £3,000 packages or £5,000, whatever, right? That is only really going to work consistently to certain niches. Okay, so you either have to be solving a very painful, very emotional problem for someone, which some people do. Okay, you have to be selling it to reasonably high net worth, reasonably wealthy individuals, right? Or you need to be comfortable personally with putting people in the position where they might be financially strained to afford your services. Okay, because fitness for most people, now, the coaches who maybe listen to this who are selling high ticket will disagree with me. Okay, and if you want to sell high ticket, if you want to try and sell £5,000 fitness packages, you're more than welcome to, if that's working for you. Our view on it is, for most people, fat loss, fitness, is not a £5,000 or a £3,000 problem, right? It is a £1,000 or £200 a month problem, right? At most. Because people have other commitments, right? People have other things they have to use that money for. And you aren't selling a process that is going to say, well, if you spend £1,000 with me, I'll help you make that £1,000 back. You aren't offering that. You're saying, well, I'm going to sell you this very expensive thing, and in exchange, I'll help you change your physique, and that may have some downstream effect on the amount of money that you earn. But if that person is then putting that money on a credit card, they're putting themselves in debt, they're maybe using savings, there's an immense responsibility there, right? There is an immense demand on what it is that you're offering, and is it really, to them, is it worth that? You're probably going to run into refund problems and things like that as well. So that's our view on high ticket. People will disagree, right? But we would far rather deliver a service that is that can be largely automated, right? Can be very heavily systematized, doesn't necessarily demand my time every new client that we sign up, and is affordable for the majority of people. And if you start getting 100 clients at that point, it starts to look quite appealing in terms of the finances, right? Especially when you consider that is recurring revenue, right? That is happening every month. So £100 a month, take your total cost figure, combining that 20% buffer, divide it by 100, that's how many clients you need, right? So for most people, that is going to be something like 20 or 30 clients, right? Something like that. So if you got £100 a month, you need 20 clients to make to that £2,000 monthly revenue, if that's including your 20% buffer, right? And probably straight away, if you've never gone through an exercise like this before, probably straight away that immediately feels more clear than like, well, I want to start this online business, but I don't really know where to begin, right? I've just told you that you need 20 clients at £100 a month, if the £2,000 is your number. The next thing is working out your prime lever KPIs. Sounds fancy, corporate business speak, right? All I mean is simply this prime lever here. This is the thing that's going to be generating your customers for you. And where most people go wrong here is they think that the way to generate customers is daily Instagram story, daily Instagram post in free Facebook groups, direct message people, right? We've had people work with us who've been taught by business coaches, if you want to call them that, to cold message people in Facebook groups who they think are in their niche, in their target market, right? You can try that if you want. That's not really a legitimate business practice, in my opinion. Like, that's not something that you're going to be able to double, triple, or 10 times the operations of, right? You're not going to be able to scale your business like that. At some point, if you want to take this seriously, right? If you want this business to be able to replace your income and pay your mortgage and to provide for your family, right? We need some level of reliability. We need a way of saying, okay, well, I know that this process converts clients at 5% a month, right? I know when I get this many leads, I get this many clients, and to get this many leads, I need to do this. All right. So this prime lever is probably, for most people, ourselves included, right? It's your sales process. Everyone fusses about the app that they're using, the delivery systems that they're using, how many podcast downloads they get, right? All those things are nice. But if you can't constantly managing your prime lever, which is just your sales process, right? The lever that you pull to make your business go faster or slower, right? If you don't know the numbers around that and you aren't managing the numbers around that, nothing else matters, okay? You can have the biggest Instagram following possible, but if you aren't consistently converting customers from that following, it doesn't matter. You won't be able to do that as a business. You won't be able to operate and live off that. So the goal that we suggest, right, and there are, I'm not going to go into, it's beyond the scope of this video to talk about, different types of sales processes, okay? But whatever the sales process is that you end up building, whether it's a webinar, sales calls model, whether it's an email series, a product launch, a challenge, right, whatever is popular at this time of you watching this video, you want to be converting between 3 to 5% of those people leads into a customer. So if you have 100 people register some level of interest in your sales process, right, between 3 and 5 of them should become clients on the first day, right, or on the first period of time. If it's a 7-day process, at the end of 7 days, you should have 3 to 5 clients, which means you've built a recurring income from that process of £300 to £500, right? When you know that, then you can start working out these KPIs, which are key performance indicators. And all that simply means, right, if for every 100 people that enter your sales process, you get, say, 4 customers, you're generating £400, right? Which if we do 400 divided by 100, we get 4, right? It's maths. So if we have, that looks like, I don't even know what that looks like. It's a 4. I'm going to rub it out. So if we know that we earn, that's the best 4 you're going to get. If we know we earn £4 for every lead that comes into our sales process, that makes us puts us in a pretty good position, right? We're pretty unstoppable in the online market because we can then start running advertising, right? Once we've tested this, and this is, again, way beyond the scope of this video. Once we've tested this a few times for free, ideally, or with tiny little test budgets, and we know that this is converting in this range, we keep experimenting, tweaking, trying new things until we're getting that, right? Because that's going to allow you to build your business. You then work out what each lead is worth. So every 100 people, I make 400 quid. That means every person's roughly worth 4 quid on average, right? So if I can go to Facebook and get leads in here for 2 quid, I'm winning every day, right? Even if I get leads for 4 quid, I'm actually getting £400 in month 1, right? But which is breaking even. But then in month 2, I get £400 as well because we're charging per month, right? So this is the process we call the break-even back-end model. If you want to learn more about that, there's a link below this video to some trainings and a workshop you can take part in where I teach the full thing, right? I'm trying to keep this about goals. I don't want to go too much into the mechanics of sales and marketing online. But so we've gone from, right, 100. We've gone from I don't know where to begin to, right, I need 20 clients at £100 a month. Right, well, how am I going to get that? Okay, well, I'm going to go through and try and experiment with different sales processes. And I'm going to keep doing that until the little trials that I run convert at 3 to 5%. Brilliant, right? That's happened. So if I know that they're converting at 3 to 5% and I need 20 clients, and every time I have 100 people, I get 4, well, I need 500 people, right? If I get 500 people, I get 20 clients with this process at 4%, right? So straight away, again, we've gone from lack of clarity to I need 500 leads. How am I going to get 500 leads? And that's where we come into this, the lead and lag variables, right? So these are what most people do when they set business goals is they set lag targets, right? And a lag target is revenue, it's cash, it's profit, it's clients, right? Those are things that are the result of the things that you do. If I tell you today to go out and make revenue, right, you can't do that. You can't influence that directly. All you can influence are these things, right? The lead variables, the things that create the outcome, the actions, the daily actions that create the outcome. And this is really where we want to place our attention, okay? Because if the goal is 500 leads, what are the actions you can do every day to do that, right? There's no point in worrying about whether or not, if you set a goal of 500 leads, as your lag variable, as your target, that's great, but there's still something else that has to happen to generate that. So having that goal, which is what most people do, right? Instead of saying, I want to lose 10 stone, say, I want to go to the gym 4 times a week, for example, right? One of them is very in your control. One of them's kind of out of your control. There's lots of variables. And when it comes to business, revenue, clients, all these things, there's so many variables that go into them. So pick one thing that is your lead variable. It might be post on Facebook or whatever it is you want to try, right? For us, it's managing our advertising. Okay, so I know as long as I'm getting a certain number of clicks, that this is all going to work for us, right? So I spend most of my time looking at data, right? Looking at Excel spreadsheets. It sounds boring, but it takes a few hours a week to manage the entire business, right? Far easier than spending an entire day on an Instagram story to still then not really know these numbers. Right? Because one day you might do an Instagram story and it might not work or it might work. And even if it does, what are you going to do? You're going to do the exact same Instagram story again, right? This is a much more reliable way of setting goals in your business and actually operating it. So once you know this stuff, you can start to say, well, if I need 500 leads, then maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 4 sales processes over the next 4 sales funnel launches or however you want to do it over the next 12 weeks, right? So that's the thing that you focus on. You can control that. You can definitely go out and do that, right? And then it's, well, what methods am I going to use to get people into that? There's loads of ones you could try. And then this is finally just setting some goals over different timelines, right? So here I've got, again, it's maybe not very clear, 1 year, 90 days, 1 month, 1 week, 1 day. So 1 year, really hard to set goals for, right? You probably have no idea what's going to be happening in your life in 1 year's time. We encourage people to think about it because it's like nice to set a lofty goal, but I wouldn't focus too much on this because what's happening in 11 months' time may be totally different to what's happening now. 90 days is kind of the longest I would set targets for. So it's a business quarter-ish, right? So we do set lag variables over 90 days. We have a lag variable for a year as well, because if you're operating a company, you submit accounts on a yearly basis to Companies House or whatever is relevant for the country you're in. So yearly and 90 days, we do still look at lag variables, like how much income are we making, how much profit are we making, how many clients did we serve, all those sorts of things, right? But this way, that's terrible. That's a left hand for you, left hand drawing. So this way, 1 month, 1 day, one week, it doesn't really matter when you look at this stuff, right? Monthly's kind of important, like especially as you start paying VAT and things like that, so you can plan your cash and plan where the money's going. But what's more important on this basis are these things, okay? Because if you get to the end of the month and your ads have been managed correctly, you've sent as many marketing emails as you want, you've created as many pieces of content as you were planning to create, you've spoken to as many people on the phone as you wanted to speak to, whatever it is, right? Then probably these things are going to happen, right? If you get to the end of the month and your lead variables are off, then pretty quickly you can divert your course, because you know that these are not going to happen, right? So what you can control on a weekly, daily, and a monthly basis is just this. You can't really force this, right? So on a weekly, and a monthly, and a daily basis, I'm looking at what are the actions I can take this week, this month, today, to ensure we hit these, right? And then I measure my success on that. Not only does that take the stress off the whole thing, because if you get to the end of the week and you've not generated as much cash, it's like, well, or you're not generated the revenue you want, it's like, well, is that because I wasn't doing this stuff, or I was? If you're consistently doing these things and it's not creating the results you want, change your actions, right? Change your lead variables. If you are doing them, probably, and you've set them correctly, probably you'll get your targets anyway. Right, it's far less stressful. I can nail every day, or be really productive every day without ever looking at revenue and cash and profit and clients, because I'm just saying, well, I've got 5 things I need to do today that I know are going to move us forward. As long as I do them, I can shut my laptop at the end of the day and be happy that I've had a successful, productive day. All right, that's a whistle-stop tour of goal setting. Hopefully, it's made things feel a bit clearer. Like I say, below this video, there's a link to a few things that basically go into this a bit further. So I'm aware this video is only half an hour or so, and we're talking about basically, for those of you who are serious about this, we're talking about building and launching a business, right? Which is not something that's going to happen in 30 minutes. It's probably going to take a bit longer. So we have some links below this video for resources to help you learn more, some ways that you can potentially work with us as well, or have us help you in a bit more depth. If you've got any questions or comments, post below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if this sort of format of video is something that you're interested in seeing, and I'll be covering some more topics in the future. We'll speak soon.